Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the PHNX Rising podcast presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. My name is Ramon Chavez. I'm super thrilled to be here with you today. Alongside me is my partner, Owain Evans. How you doing, sir?
I'm not too bad. It's good. We finally got a real official preseason game in the books.
Yeah, super excited about that. We'll be talking about that in a quick second. Before we get to that, I also want to introduce our producer, Edwin Perez. You're looking fly, sir. What are you wearing?
Thank you. I'm wearing the 3-line shirt.
That's
I know
right.
That's a little disdain for Owen, but
yeah, no, that's I've already had to threaten to take it outside and burn it, but
it was a little chilly. I had a little bit of laundry day, so I had to wear a little bit of a sweater. Come on, Owen.
There you
Can't
go.
hate it.
That's a smart man right there.
Can't like what's on there though.
All right, y'all. Well, I'm super thrilled to be here with you guys today. We're going to have a great show. I also want to shout out our viewers that are tuning in right now. Thank you so much for tuning in here for our second ever show, so really appreciate that. If you haven't yet, I want to implore you to like, share, and subscribe. The more you do that, the more it helps us grow, and it helps us distribute this podcast across all the airwaves. So, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your stuff, helps us out. So really appreciate that. And if you haven't yet, make sure to drop your comments on the chat. Let us know where you're watching us from. Is it from work, from the gym, home, whatever you're doing, let us know what you're up to. And again, we appreciate you for tuning in to the PHNX Rising podcast. All right, Owen, let's go ahead and get started. Apparently something happened today, right? With the Rising. So with Rising, what's going on today?
So it was Rising's first official preseason game. There was an intra-squad game last week, of course, and they did play some of the team, at least, not all had reported, against the US men's national team earlier last month. But this was their first official preseason game, played behind closed doors, even to us, unfortunately. So the information we've got is heavily limited, but we do know that they lost 2-1 to Houston Dynamo, went down very early. They were down 2-0 within around about 24 minutes before getting one back with Kevin Lambert scoring on a free kick. Good to see they're getting set pieces in early, at least. And having seen the video, he did climb up pretty tall to get there. That first half, though, they really put out a team that I think, and we were talking about this earlier, and you agreed with me, looks like a first-choice Rising team.
Yeah, no, looked pretty great on my end as far as what they put out for the first half. The Rising faced off against the Houston Dynamo at the Keno Sports Complex in Tucson. And like Owen was saying, they went down pretty early. Did that kind of frustrate you, just the first preseason game? I know you were texting us, hey, they're already down. I was like, oh my God, like what's going on? Because I know, based on what I'm hearing last year, a lot of pressure was put in on for the preseason games that Rising had. So did that kind of freak you out a little bit, or were you kind of like, whatever?
I feel like it was almost like here we go again kind of thing, because we know, right, last season, yes. And I'm sure that I will be one of those who takes the brunt of the blame on that as well, because ultimately fans weren't able to go and see most of those matches, and what they were getting was ultimately coming out of the media members, really. The thing is, the performances last year were actually pretty poor in preseason, okay? It wasn't just the results, it was the performances. And so, yeah, you're seeing them go down early, maybe it gives you a bit of worry. But at the end of the day, 2-1, it's not a bad result, okay? This is a Houston Dynamo team that have been playing for a few weeks, right? They've already played a couple of teams at their own level, and they're a higher level team anyway, So when you think about it that way, it's not a terrible result. There were some good moments in there. Some of the guys in the second half who came on had some good performances from what I've heard. Guys like Carlos Anguiano apparently was really good, playing some really good balls out of the middle and keeping things moving. But, let's wait and see right now. It was far from the worst start that it could have been overall.
Yeah, the Dynamo had played against their own Dynamo 2, Real Salt Lake in Colorado. So they had a couple of games already under the belt. And again, this is the first preseason game for the Rising. Only the first 45 minutes that I will say like kind of A-team went, and then they switched out right in the second half. So good to see that. And I believe the Dynamo only went around 60 minutes before they made the change. So pretty good start in my opinion. Like you're saying, the goal, I saw, if you guys go to the Rising Instagram or their social media accounts, pretty great set piece goal, like you're saying. Arturo Rodriguez kind of did like a little step over, and then Quinn was the one that lofted it over. So I like that. I think it's they're off to a good start. Let's take a look at their next game. So they do start off pretty strong here in the month of February. So they just had their game today against the Dynamo. Their next game will be on February 12th, which I believe is this Saturday, right?
Yeah, it's this Saturday. That game kicking off at about 4:30 p.m.
Oh, man. Hopefully it's not that hot.
Hopefully.
And the reason I say that is because we're going to be there at the game. So hopefully get to have some reporting for you guys. Against the Sporting Kansas City team that actually played against the U.S. men's national team when they were here as well. So pretty good stuff there. And then their next game will be open to the public. So listen up there, February 19th versus Louisville City FC. How excited are you for that game, Owen, for that first game that the fans are going to be able to come back and see the Rising?
I mean, it's always good to get fans in and seeing Rising play. It's preseason though, I guess. You've got to temper that. You know, some of the guys are going to come in fans-wise and be really excited they're coming in, and what they're going to be treated to is a game that could well feature a few trialists. It could well feature a few academy players. You're going to have changes, lots of changes at half-time. I mean, we saw today there was a completely new 11 for the second half, right? And that's completely expected in a lot of these games. And we've seen it happen time after time after time. But, you know, just it's fun, always fun to get people in at Wild Horse Pass and seeing the games. Yeah,
and so basically don't expect like an actual game if you've been to one before, just because there's going to be a lot of changes. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we never know. You never know, because some of these games, it can be, you know, they take it very seriously and... I mean, that's about halfway through preseason, so probably not quite at the stage where you're looking to push everybody 90 minutes. But, you know, you really never know. A lot of it comes down to what Rick's planning, and unfortunately, we won't know that until we hear more from him.
Exactly. And then you mentioned some trialists. So there were 2 today, if I saw the list correctly. And then they had an academy player as part of the team. Excuse me, today during the game. And then if we can put the graphic back on, they had a couple more games after that. On March 5th against FC Tucson and GCU. And that'll wrap it up, right?
That wraps it up. Yeah, that is 1 week before we kick off the season here against Monterey Bay.
So looking at these games, is there, you know, I know we talked about the Louisville one a little bit, but is there one in particular you're looking forward to?
From my perspective, I'm really looking forward to getting out there on Saturday. I mean, the fans might not want to hear this. Unfortunately, they can't join us there. But, hey, seeing football in the flesh, there's nothing better than it, is there?
Yeah, and that's going to be their first game since November that we're going to be able to see, so that's going to be really great. Comparing this 2022 preseason to the one last year, Owen, it was basically 2 months last year, 2 full months of preseason action. That has been cut in half this time around. Do you think that's going to affect the team in any way, not having that extra month of, you know, getting to run around or tactical, you know, in the tactical sense as well? What do you think?
Well, the main thing to remember is that the off-season this year is nowhere near as long as it was last year. As you said, Rising did play into November this year. Last season, they didn't. They've also, last season started at the very end of April. This year, we're starting at the very beginning of March.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it that way, you don't really need as much. There's not as much rust, really, for these players as they're coming off of what was just quite frankly too long an off season.
Gotcha.
Last year. So, I think, but at the end of the day, right, I'm sure that there are a lot of returning players. They know what they're doing. There might be some disjointed bits in that front three because there's been a lot of change there. But in reality, the midfield is going to be the same, presumably, the first choice three. The back line is going to be practically the same. There'll be a couple of changes there, but nothing too huge. Ben Lunt in goal played with this team last year, so he knows them. It's just really the front three. And, when you're not really trying to get everyone to click in the way that they almost had to at times last year, because there were far more substantial changes last year, maybe it doesn't really matter that much.
That's true. Yeah, no, it helps that they've already kind of had some time to gel last year. What is the main objective with these preseason games? Again, they only have not as many as last year, so, what's the main reason behind this? Rick had an interview that he said that maybe fitness was the main thing that they're kind of focusing on. Do you think you agree with that?
I think for most players there, it probably is fitness, right? Because we do kind of know for most of them, we know who the starting midfield trio is probably going to be. We've got a reasonably good grasp on the front three. Still a little bit in flux. As you mentioned, there was a trialist today, and it's possible, from what I'm hearing, there could be another player to arrive, possibly even this week as a centre forward. But that one's still a little bit up in the air. Besides that, though, for some of these players, there's a couple, like guys like Ivan Gutierrez, right? Guys like Jonathan Levin, who didn't really get much of a crack at it last year, and this is their opportunity to step up and show that perhaps this year they can be more of a serious role player where they just weren't last year. Even a guy like Ryan Flood, who, when we spoke to Rick last week, he mentioned that Ryan, after he'd lost that starting spot to Tate Schmidt last year, he kind of struggled at times mentally dealing with that. And this is a time for Ryan to come in and show that he has matured since then, that he's ready to take on the task that's in front of him, and that he can fight for a starting spot in this team against Babacar Jai.
Awesome. No, I'm looking forward to these preseason games. Like from what I get, Edwin, and if you want to chime in for this, a lot of people were freaking out about the results last year. What was going on in your mind during those games last year, and comparing to this season, especially with this loss that they had today?
I think they're just figuring things out. When you're playing those preseason games, you get a chance to experiment a little bit. Chance was trying to figure out what was going to work, and those players are getting back into their form. And it was a very long offseason too for them. So it was just a mixture of things, and they were just the objective in those preseason games not to get the result. I think is to kind of build that chemistry. Get your fitness up and be ready by the first game, which we saw they were. They shushed out all the people questioning their preseason results and all that. So I think now we learned the lesson. Now we can't be freaking out when we see a loss, especially this one. I mean, they scored a goal within 2 minutes. I know fans were not too happy, but you can't be freaking out. They're just figuring things out. They, Trialist 1 didn't get a goal yet, but, I was rooting for it. But yeah, it's just a chance for the lads to, get back into form and get ready for the games.
Yeah, awesome. Let's shout out some of our comments over here. Shout out to Bonnie. Thank you for tuning in. Sean, Scott with some feelings here. After last season, I have learned not to sweat the preseason results. Rising faltered, then came out strong. So yeah, I agree with that. Scott Summers, let's see here. Epps is not Asante. Epps has a skill set, and Epps needs to be Epps. What do you think about that? I think that's kind of true.
Yeah. I think that what we're going to see from Epps is a player who, well, when I spoke to him last year, he said that he was working on his goal scoring over the offseason. He's not quite the same kind of goal scoring threat that Solomon Asante provides. He is, of course, however, a guy who will put a lot of balls forward. So what we're looking to, I think, there is we're going to need him to get into a really good partnership with that number 9, and he can really feed the number 9 if given the opportunity. And I think that's the way they're going to have to look to play him.
Awesome. Yeah, I think in one of the interviews that that Rising put out on YouTube, they compared it to filling some big little shoes because he's going to be taking that Asante position. Matt,
it's a bit mean to say.
That's what they said. It's on the interview. Don't blame me. I'm just the messenger. Matt Skinner, what position would you like to see bolstered? You said this is what you get with PHNX right here. Some insider information with Owain. So you were telling me that some trialists are coming in. Do you have any little bit more that you can say here on air?
Well, there's been a lot of speculation, hasn't there, that people who weren't those that were named as a striker, that there was another target all along that Rick was after, someone from overseas that he was looking to bring in. And that's what I've heard is possibly going to happen this week. I mean, Rick alluded to about a week ago that he'd been having troubles getting certain people into the country. And that would match up with what I've heard. But
Gotcha.
Beyond that, a lot of it is still quite speculative at this point. I think that if you wanted to talk about positions that you've really got to look to bolster, I mean, I think as a team right now, they are kind of rounded,
Yeah, you did say they were pretty, too deep, basically, at each position at this
positions,
point?
Yeah, they really are. It all comes down to, I think, and we mentioned this, I'm pretty sure we mentioned it last week, where if you had to pick any position to really bolster, you'd probably go with the centre-backs, but that partly depends on whether Niall Dunn is ready for it or not. I mean, he's only 17. We've barely seen any of him. No, it's not Long Tan, as far as I'm aware. The ever-running long joke and legend of Arizona United, Long Tan.
I understood that reference. I got it.
But, I think it's a centre-back, really, if we had to look to a position to bolster.
Awesome. We'll keep the comments going there, chat. Thank you so much for tuning in again. And before we move on and talk about the U.S. Open Cup, I do want to plug in a shameless plug right now. Our shirt, our PHNX Rising podcast shirt. So if you guys haven't seen it, it is on the screen right now. Check it out. Go to phnxlocker.com and get yours today. It'll really help us out here on the podcast. And when you guys go to the Louisville game, you guys can rock it there. Hopefully we'll have ours by then as well. And that way we can all match together and let people know about the PHNX Rising podcast.
And it also looks a hell of a lot better than what Edwin is currently wearing.
Let's put it on the screen, Edwin.
Oh, wow.
Show the people what you got.
Come on.
That's right.
I'm wearing something football related. Can't hate on me.
I'm gonna
Come
win.
on.
I'm gonna get some
I
English
can
stuff.
when it's an England shirt, I'm afraid.
I get it. I apologize, though, and I'll be better next time. All right. I learned my lessons.
Don't cross Owen, Edwin. All right, y'all. So looking forward to this weekend. There's a big game going on. I think Edwin might head out there this week to check it out. But the Super Bowl is taking place this week. So if you guys are into sports betting, you guys might want to check out Draftkings. The moment since that we've been waiting for since September is finally here in honor of the big game. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 or more and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. If you're not a new customer, you can bet on Super Bowl 56 props instead. DraftKings Sportsbook offers a wide range of props throughout the game. Take your shot at winning cash by predicting props like if a non-quarterback will throw a pass, fourth down conversions, total yardage, and so much more. I wonder if they do the national anthem. I think a lot of people bet on that, right? Like how long that's going to go. So we'll check that out. But yeah, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use promo code PHNX, and get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 or more and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code PHNX at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. You do have to be 21 and over, Arizona only, gambling problem, 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only, eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. All right, Owen, who are you taking this weekend? I know you said it's the wrong type of football, but who are you taking
I
this
mean, when
weekend?
I heard you saying that there was a big game this weekend, I thought you were talking about Cardiff Millwall, which is a massive game at the bottom
I don't
end of the
think I was,
championship.
no.
But
No one's talking about the game. Let's be honest. So it's
oh
set
no,
for you.
it's big. It's really big. You can also bet on that if you want via the DraftKings Sportsbook.
There you go. There you
I
go.
confirm. I just got it up.
Shameless plug. Come on, you didn't give your prediction though. Ramon wanted one.
Doesn't want to.
Oh.
Again, it's the wrong kind of football for me.
Oh
I'm
my
afraid.
God. I'm taking the Bengals all the way. If you guys saw last week's show, you know why. But let's go Bengals. All right, y'all. So let's keep the fun going today. I did ask the fellas here for a fun segment for this week's show. We are going to talk about our top 3 favorite players. So I asked everybody here who their players were that they wanted to show off during the show. We'll start with Edwin over there because he has the 2015 Barcelona apparently. But what's going on over there with your list?
I'm a big Barcelona guy. I love them. The MSN days are unbeatable. So 2 of them are included in there. Neymar Jr., obviously the skill, the flair man, the Brazilian himself, which they're actually my favorite international team, fun fact, which is why I also included Dani Alves, who is back on Barcelona. And then you got to include the GOAT himself, Lionel Messi. Messi over Ronaldo any day. I know, Ramon, you included CR7 on your list, but Messi over Ronaldo any
Farmers
day.
League. Yeah.
I mean, it's not as interesting list as Owen's. I'll give it that.
Owen, let's go to yours.
See, I wanted to make it interesting. You know, I wanted it to be a bit different. So I thought I have my 2 Welsh guys at the top. I was going to pick someone different for that 3rd place. And I thought someone who was, when I was growing up, was a really big name. And, you know, I mean, Didier Drogba played here, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a great start. But also, in a time where we talk a lot about players and their influence over politics and important issues outside, Didier Drogba, if you've never looked it up, there's a really great article on this on the BBC about how he actually played a role in stopping Ivory Coast civil war.
Oh, my.
Right? How many players can actually say
heck?
that?
I did
How
not
many
know
players
that.
can say they put their influence as a really famous footballer to actually stopping people from shooting at each other?
Wow.
You know,
Shout out,
that's
yeah.
just, it's insane. And of course, you know, there was nothing cooler than being able to cover his final games here in Phoenix. Gareth Bale, I mean, come on, you guys had to expect I was going to throw someone Welsh out, didn't you?
Yeah.
Surely? I mean, I know you're not his biggest
You're a big,
fan.
yeah,
Ramon,
big
because
golf
you're
fan, yeah.
You're a big Madrid. It's Wales, golf, Madrid, I think you'll find. It's always Wales above golf, not Madrid, though. You know, fantastic player, if you ask me. He's better than Messi. Who cares about Messi? Who cares about
right,
I
let's
agree with
calm
that
down.
one. Look at us
Yeah.
agreeing.
Calm
Yeah, I
down,
love that.
Owen.
And then on the top, someone who I'm sure most of you won't know, and it's Robert Earnshaw. But this is a guy who, when I was growing up as a kid, was scoring goals for fun for Wales, for Cardiff. He celebrated every goal with a somersault, and he's also the only player to have scored a hat-trick in each of the 4 top tiers in England, and the FA Cup, and the League Cup, and the international level.
Jeez.
He ended up finishing his career with some time in MLS, and he's actually coaching now over here. And this is where, unfortunately, it gets a bit controversial because he did just accept a coaching position at Orange County.
No,
unfortunately,
I don't know. I don't like that.
I know. I don't like how that turned out.
Edwin,
but,
I don't know how you feel about it, but
sometimes, unfortunately,
he
people
calls
let
me
you
the
down.
traitor. I'm not the traitor of this,
That's right.
of this podcast.
Thanks, Edwin.
all right. So to wrap up the list, I got mine here. We got, of course, Cuauhtemoc Blanco. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he played for my favorite team in Mexico, which is Club America. So an institution over there in Mexico. And I think currently, now that you brought up Drogba's politics kind of stuff, he's actually the governor of one of the states in Mexico. So apparently that's a popular thing to do. Zizou, he's going to be my second choice, Zinedine Zidane. Anytime I play Sunday League Soccer and then I come back and I'm like, I just need to watch some highlights to see if I can pull something in the game. And I can't do what he did. Those are stuff that it's incredible, the stuff that he did when he was on the pitch. So I had to include him. And then, of course, CR7, Cristiano. I had to put him on the list just because he's the GOAT. So
No.
should I do a CU or no?
Messi over Ronaldo any day. Let's be honest here.
All right.
Gareth Bale over each of them, I'm afraid.
But yeah, we have some comments here. We have Kobe Jones, Roy Keane, Ruud van Nistelrooy for Matt. Pretty fair list, right? I had the privilege to watch Pelé, Beckenbauer, and Drogba play live. My top 3, Maradona, my top not seen. Dang. Pretty,
that's a bucket list.
That's a good list. Yeah, that's really
guys,
good.
Yeah.
And then BG with Pumas. So yeah, they do this chant where they go Goya. So if you guys didn't know, so shout out to Pumas there. Billy Forbes, Corey Herzog, and Terry Moose. I don't get that one. Y'all, you guys fill me in on that one.
Yeah, let's not
read that comment. Okay.
Let's not get into the lest Trey Muse's dad might threaten to beat us up in a parking lot.
You guys warned me this might happen, so I'm gonna chalk it up to you guys. All right, y'all. So back to business. So let's talk about the U.S. Open Cup. A lot of stuff going on with that. With the draws, especially. I'm hearing from Owain. If you guys follow his Twitter feed, he's always keeping you up to date with all that stuff. PHNX Rising Nation. He says, "Sorry, I'll stop commenting." So if you guys don't follow us on Twitter yet, make sure to follow us. We put out a poll asking in their last 2 campaigns, Phoenix crashed out at the first opportunity, but how seriously should they take the U.S. Open Cup this year in 2022? And so, Owain, were you surprised with 67% of the people saying to make it a top priority?
I actually kind of was, to be honest. When I first put out my own opinion on that one, I was expecting it to be a bit more of a hot take than it turned out to be. It seemed like a lot of people are fans of the Open Cup, and I was expecting more people who were going to push towards, no, we need to focus on the league. Why do we really care about the cup?
Yeah.
But, I'm really glad, to be honest, to see the love that it's been getting, because this is a competition that deserves a lot more respect than it is. As I said before, a lot of people are really pining for this kind of authenticity that you get with actual long-standing traditions that just don't exist here. But the Open Cup has been played for over 100 years now, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the true things about the game here in the US that really, really has a lot of history behind it. So why aren't we getting behind that?
And it doesn't hurt that you get a Champions League spot, in the CONCACAF Champions League. So, and then you can do a Monterrey and crash out in the first round like they did this year. So shout out to my Monterrey people. But yes, it is an important competition. The 107th edition that's going to be happening this year. And from all the research that I was doing, there's a little fun fact that might only amuse me, but apparently it's called the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. But there's also a trophy in the football that Owain doesn't like. So when people like the Bengals win the AFC Championship, they're giving the Lamar Hunt AFC Championship trophy. So little fun fact that I picked up there. But anyway, so the 2020 and 2021 editions were suspended due to COVID. So the 2022 edition is coming back, and it's gonna be bigger and better than ever. So they're gonna have 103 clubs. In this competition, 71 of them being fully professional, and that's the highest total ever of all time. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's really awesome that, soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, is growing so much that you're having all these professional teams being part of it now, and also some amateur teams. So, what do you think about that? Are you excited? You kind of shrug your shoulders a bit?
It's always fun though, and it just shows you how much the pyramid has grown in recent years. USL Championship in its current form and the number of teams that it has. When I first watched the predecessor team to PHNX Rising, Arizona United, play in the Open Cup. It was the only time they've ever actually faced an MLS team, and that was back in, I believe, 2014 against LA Galaxy.
Yeah.
Right? The USL Championship, or as it was then known, USL Pro, which had a logo with a flaming ball, as apparently everything of that era had. It was a single table. There were less than 20 teams in the whole league.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of growth that has happened since, they've spawned a whole new league in League One. Then you've got Nisa, which I'm not going to get into that because Nisa's a mess, but all these other leagues that are popping up and all the professional teams that are popping up now that it was unthinkable, 10 years ago that this was going to be the state of play over here in the lower leagues. And it's great to see as well. I mean, the amateur teams, as you mentioned, it's always fun. If you've never actually been out, the Open Cup, it starts in September. Amateur teams,
you gotta qualify first, right?
Mm-hmm, any amateur team that is effectively in its current league and will be in it for the next season is allowed to enter. All you have to do is pay a couple of $100, I think, to enter the competition.
Let's do it, man. Let's get
you can make it all the way. You can make it all the way, and some teams have gotten to the point where they're playing, decent level professional teams, despite the fact they play on public parks on a weekend. That's just insane.
No, I think that's the fun of it, that anybody can win it. On any given day, when you step on the pitch, you can win the game and move on in the competition. So the Rising are expected to go into round 2, I believe, round two of the competition. So if they do once they get the draw, how is this draw determined? You said it was kind of like an odd way, but explain more about that.
Yeah, so the Open Cup has a long history of being very strange in the way it draws, especially for people who are more used to following competitions like the FA Cup and you're used to seeing the big pot and people drawing out numbers. No, that's not what happens here. So all of the teams in round 2 now are going to be paired up geographically. And the way that works, they start with all the winners from round 1. They pair them against another team that is entering in round 2. First, geographically, and then all the remaining teams are entering. So all the teams in round 2, that's teams in Division 2, which is USL Championship, and Division 3, which is League 1 and Nisa, then get paired up geographically from there. Now, you can't play another team in your division in that first match.
Gotcha.
So what we saw 2019, where Rising opened the Open Cup campaign against New Mexico United, that cannot happen. Rising must play a team from Division 3. And that means it looks like it's going to be Valley United or FC Tucson. Now, I was hoping that they'd have put the pairings out by this time in the week. They are due this week. And they had actually put the first round pairings out on Tuesday last week. So yeah, I was really hoping they were going to be done by the time that we came on, but unfortunately they are not.
Yeah, and definitely just make sure to follow Owain on Twitter, so you guys are up to date with all that drawing stuff. It just takes so long. We want to know. We want to know who we're playing, right? So if the Rising, once they get their opponent, April 5th through the 7th, right? That's when they're kind of scheduled to play. And if they win that game, April 19th through the 21st is the next play date. These are midweek games. Do you think that's going to affect the Rising a lot, with having a game on the weekend and then another one on Wednesday or something?
I think that it can. I think that there's a level of prioritization needed. You need to determine, are you prioritizing the Cup or are you prioritizing those specific regular season games? I think that, especially because unfortunately they come quite thick and fast sometimes, these Open Cup games. Those first two, as you point out, there's 2 weeks between the second round and the third round. You're really layering the games in there. However, I think that, and I know this is, and I can see even from some of the comments people are asking, would you take the league title over it? Do you think you should risk, the risk to the USL hopes for a deep Open Cup run? I don't see those things as mutually exclusive. I think that what the Open Cup can provide, if you take it seriously, is something that Rising players rarely see while playing for Rising. That is high-stakes games. This team does not play high-stakes games until the playoffs come around, and we know how those playoff games go, right?
Yeah,
if you look at the last 3 years, okay, how many games have they really impressed you in? How many times have they gone above the minimum expectation, I guess? Reno was a good game away from home, I suppose. They were an underdog there. They came back from a 2-0 deficit, and they did end up winning on penalties. But besides that, the team hasn't won in 90 minutes at all over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think that a part of that is because They get to the end of a season. The team has coasted for most of the year. They get to a pretty good spot, qualify for the playoffs early. The word from them becomes, well, we don't want to put too much pressure on seeding because, you don't want to burn yourselves out before the playoffs, which is fine. Yeah. I understand that. But it means that while everyone else has some kind of must-win games, Rising players don't get that until the playoffs.
Yeah, they're cruising.
Yeah, they're cruising for most of the season because they do. Mm-hmm. They do, and we know that. They qualify for the playoffs early, typically, and then get to that point at the end of the season, and they kind of cruise for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Until they get into the playoffs, and suddenly you've got a team that have been playing must-win games for the last month.
They're coming in. They're focused.
Yeah. So does this give perhaps a new ability to get used to those situations where, in 90 minutes or 120 or on kicks from the mark if it has to happen, you know that you have to grind out a result, that there's a real impact if you don't, that you crash out of the cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think you made a great point with that, There was someone that replied to the poll that we had, if you could put the graphic on. He made a great point, and I think this is why I agree with the fact that some of the people in the comment that are saying that they should take this seriously and they should go and they try to win every competition. So he's providing the example, Jacob here on Twitter. Thank you for the response, Jacob. He's basically talking about New Mexico, and he's a New Mexico fan, and how they went on a deep run in 2019. I'm going to get some hate. But no, I appreciate that mindset, though, of winning and going all out. And he said that he enjoyed it, and it provided great memories, and it provided a great feeling, being a fan of New Mexico United at that time. So I appreciate that. I like that sentiment, especially coming from a USL team. So let's look at the Rising history in this competition. So not a lot of great performances there, but Owain, you've been covering the team for a very long time. Can you talk to us a little bit about these losses, unfortunately, really early in the competition?
Yeah, so I mean, the only one there that wasn't in at the first opportunity for them to crash out was the game against San Francisco Deltas. Mm-hmm. Now, admittedly, Deltas did go on to win NASL that year, in the final year of NASL before it crashed and burned.
They're pretty good. Yeah.
The happy history of lower league game in this country. But, that was at home, I believe, and they should have gotten a result there, really. Sporting Arizona, look, I know it was away, but away for that meant that they were playing in a community college in the East Valley. Right, and Ryan Flood played in that game, I believe, for Sporting Arizona. But you're playing, you got amateur players out there. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, again, if you even go back further and go back to the days of Arizona United, which is the historical part of this club before they rebranded to PHNX Rising, when they lost 3-0 to Chula Vista. Oof. Chula Vista play on public parks in San Diego, and they came to Arizona and won 3-0 here.
Yeah,
I mean, New Mexico United. I'll give them that. I'll give them that. Sometimes you play teams in your own league, and that can be hard, especially on a one-off game and up against someone who has joined Rising since in Santimoa.
Yeah,
but ultimately the club I suppose they've underperformed for years in this competition, really.
Yeah, no, and when I was doing researching for this, I was happily surprised to see Omar Bravo scoring in one of the games, I believe in 2017. Owain tells me that he's not fondly remembered in Rising, but it was good to see that. But yeah, the one that stood out the most was the 2019 game against New Mexico United, against the young Santi Moore. I saw some of the highlights on YouTube, and technically, he scored the goal, but it was deflected, so it was awarded to someone else. So that was great to see. And New Mexico United actually got all the way to, I believe, the round of 16, if I'm correct. And so they crashed out there to the eventual winners or runners-up, I believe. But I love that. I love that these, that New Mexico United team went on and took this competition seriously. They did not perform well in the league, I believe, that year, but still, it's a great memory for all the fans. And I think the Rising fans deserve that, where we want this deep run and create these memories and awesome games. And like you're saying, they often crash out in these pressure-filled situations. So we want to get rid of that moving forward. So I'm looking forward to it and happily seeing them perform past the second round. Edwin, any thoughts on the U.S. Open Cup?
I'm just gonna hope that, as the comments say, that if it comes down to penalties, they'll be able to pass through the penalty curse itself, or on the marks, as Owen would like to properly coin the
Kicks
term.
from the penalty mark.
Kicks from the penalty
There
mark.
we go.
Okay, there we go. But like I said, it doesn't hurt to go on a run. I mean, like you said, you can get in those pressure situations, the one-off, and you're better prepared. That's been the kind of the weak point for Rising. It's been when they got to the playoffs. They're the number 1 seed in the West. Yet they've crashed out early, and they looked bad in those games, and they just looked like out of function. This could serve as preparation for that. And if it's a deep run, you never know. I mean, it could be something that this team can use and ride form, and even play some of the young players. There's players that don't get that playing time that can really use these games to kind of bolster themselves in the roster. So that in itself is something that's worth playing for. And I think it's just a great opportunity for the Rising as a whole.
Definitely. And Owen, I heard you had a hot take on the U.S. Open Cup.
Well, that's what I started with, which is kind of like I thought that it was going to be a hot take, really pushing that you really need to take this competition seriously. It does matter. And then it turned out that everyone agreed with me, which is just
You're right.
They stole my thunder
right.
on that. They stole my thunder on it.
You're
I
not
thought it was going to be a hot
pot
take.
stirrer. He just wanted to get people riled up.
He wants to be Mr. Doom and Gloom, but he wasn't here today.
Fans love you, Owen. No, I think that's great. I think we should go for it. Any competition that the Rising is in, they should go for it, 100%. All right, y'all, just to remind you one more time that the big game is this weekend. So if you guys haven't yet, make sure to download the Draftkings Sportsbook app. Use promo code PHNX and get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 or more and get 280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code PHNX at Draftkings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. You do have to be 21 and over, Arizona only, gambling problem. Call 1-800-NEXT STEP. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you guys see, am I pointing the right way? There you go. That's the promo code. PHNX. Make sure to download that. All right, y'all. So to kind of wrap this up for today's show, we are going to talk about one of the opponents of Rising this season, which is the Sacramento Republic. So we're trying to kind of give you a little bit of a preview of what's coming up this season for the opponents of our team. So Owen, you kind of had a little bit of intel on what's going on with them this season, this off season.
Sacramento, yeah.
Sacramento, yeah. My bad. Sacramento Republic. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to talk about these because there's been a lot of movement, as there always is in USL, right? A lot of teams don't hang on to as many of their players as teams like Rising have managed to do this season. Mm-hmm. And with a lot of change, it can be hard to follow sometimes quite how much different certain teams are. And Sacramento struggled last year. Of course, they really struggled last year. Rising won their first game in Sacramento as PHNX Rising, which, is insane when you think about it. The teams had so much success, just couldn't win up there. But then, it kind of was a bit taken aback when a guy named it's the USL Tactics guy on
yes,
on Twitter. God, I'm completely blanking on his name. It's John Morrissey, isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds correct.
John Morrissey. Yes. yeah. There we are. I did know it. He actually put his rankings out for how he thinks this season's going to go, and he had them finishing first in the West.
I did see that.
And given how poor that they were last year, I thought, well, what's going on there?
That's a big jump.
Decided to have a little dig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, like you were saying, they didn't really do that well last season. I think they were third from last when it came to the overall standings. Last year, they were split into divisions in the conference. So for him to do that, from basically, bottom dwellers to go all above Rising, that's insane. So are there any new key pieces that they had, or is this something that Rising fans should be aware of as far as new signings?
Well, last year, I mean, the thing that went wrong for Sacramento last year really is that they were defensively solid, right? They only conceded 4 more goals than Rising all season, but they couldn't score goals. They couldn't score themselves. They had 36 goals over the course of the entire season. Rising had over 70. Okay? So one of the ways they're looking to try and get over that deficit, they brought in some really good players this season. You look at guys, I mean, the one who I'll just put out ahead of everything else, Douglas Martinez, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. As a striker, yes, he struggled these past 2 seasons. He hasn't really been able to get the playing time that he needs. When you look at 2019, he fired Monarchs to that title that year. He had 17 goals across the regular season and the playoffs. as far as strikers go, that is very good.
Yeah.
Right? And then they've partnered him up with some other good players in there. You've got Zico Lewis, okay, the Bermudan attacking midfielder, who last season was 4th highest in the Eastern Conference in terms of creating chances. Created 59 chances last year. He also scored 6 goals as well. In 2020 and had 5 goals last year. So, there are some really good attacking players. They've even strengthened the defense a bit, right? Guys like Matt Lagrassa, okay? Really, really good defensive midfielder, but he's also a defensive midfielder who can contribute going forward as well. Tends to create a chance at least one a game. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that's really good about him is he doesn't commit many fouls. And the other guy who also doesn't commit many fouls that they brought in as a centre-back is Connor Donovan. He is really impressive in terms of that low foul count. Actually giving up less than 1 a game, which for a centre-back, that is good.
It's pretty good.
Okay, and he's got a really good high pass completion coming out the back. There's some other pieces in there as well. Guys like Roro Lopez is back there for a 3rd time. Of course, he scored that free kick that played its role in knocking Rising out of the playoffs last year when he was with RGV. Other guys as well in there like Nick Ross. But, this is a really interesting team that now they've gotten rid of some of the guys who underperformed last year, guys like Jerome Kiesewetter and Darius Formella and Cameron Iwasa, and they've brought in some really exciting other players.
Yeah, no, it looks like their midfield is going to be really strong. It's going to be, one of the key pieces of their team. And with that new signing with Douglas Martinez, the Honduran player, like you're saying, they needed to convert those chances. They didn't create a lot of opportunities. And even if they did, they weren't able to really, put them in the back of the net, which is something that they really needed. So again, I'm a little biased, of course, but I don't know if they're all the way above Rising right now when it comes to that. Brand new team, a lot of new players coming in, so it might take some time for them to gel. But no, I appreciate that. We gotta keep an eye on these Sacramento Republic. We'll see how they perform this season. Anything else you wanted to add, Owen?
I think, the only thing I'd add on Sacramento Republic really is that, let's temper what I was saying slightly earlier, which is, yes, they got a lot of good pieces, but of course, some of those guys that I just mentioned probably should have performed a bit better last year. So who knows? Who knows what the real problem behind there is? I know a lot of people were quietly shouting for the coach's head last year, but he's been given another season to go at it, and he's gotten some really good players in there. So
yeah,
who knows what he'll be able to achieve this year?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Owen, for all the info on Sacramento Republic. We'll be doing these segments, throughout the course of the season, so you guys are aware of these teams that Rising will be playing, and make sure to plan, make sure to know who to boo when they take the field against the Rising. All right, Edwin, any thoughts on Sacramento?
I mean, Rising last season, it was a weird format where they had to play these teams 4 times, and when they play the Republic, right, and Owen said it, their attack wasn't that great, yet Rising only beat them twice out of the 4 times, and it was only by 1 goal. And they drew them twice later in the season. So to see the Republic team that's supposed to get better both in the midfield and the attack is going to make it very intriguing for the Rising, because if they struggled already with them last season, what are they going to do with them this season? Obviously, I know that Rising has strengthened themselves, so both these teams are going to get better. I don't know if it's going to necessarily equate to being first place in the West, but it's a team to watch, as Owen said.
For sure. So speaking of number 1, I think we should talk about our shirt. If you guys weren't aware, we got the best shirt here at PHNX, the PHNX Rising podcast shirt. If you guys haven't gotten it yet, make sure to go to phnxlocker.com and purchase yours today. Again, it really helps us out here at the PHNX Rising podcast. It helps Owen here not get as many fans upset, so make sure to grab that.
It helps Edwin get something better to wear than what he's currently wearing. But
yeah, so
there's a counter of how many times Owen has brought up my shirt. It's got to be at least 3 or 4 now.
I'm actually disappointed that the counter isn't on screen right now for people to see it.
Should have had one.
We'll work on it next time. Don't worry.
So if you don't want Edwin to wear his England shirts anymore, make sure to purchase yours today. All right, y'all. And then Owen, you pull some strings down there at Rising. So tell us about what's going on Thursday for our next show this week.
Sure. So this Thursday, 6 p.m., we're going to have our first live interview.
That's right.
We're going to have a player joining us here in the studio.
There's another chair next to him.
Yeah, there's another chair by there. You can't see it. It's not on the camera, and I almost forgot that for a second. But we're not going to make him sit on the table in front of us or anything. Don't worry. We are looking at
He was going to move me. No, we got another chair.
But yeah, it's going to be an exciting one. You want to make sure that you look out for the announcement of who that's going to be tomorrow. I'm going to start hyping that up, so make sure to follow us on social media at PHNX _Rising, _ because we're twice as fun.
I couldn't find it
Let's
for
go
the
with
longest
that,
time.
yeah.
I'm like, where is this account? It's _, so make sure to do that. So again, Twitter, and then social media everywhere, PHNX. Make sure to follow us there. And again, if you're watching this right now, thank you so much for all your comments. We appreciate you. I'm seeing the Valley guy here. He says, so glad that the Valley has soccer. That's right. #blessed. Love that.
Indeed.
And awesome. So if you guys haven't yet, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us to grow this podcast, and it helps us to bring more content to you about Rising. All right, Owen, any last thoughts? You all set?
Looking forward to Thursday.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. All right, y'all. Well, from everybody here, I've had a great time today. Edwin, were you okay even with Owen's teasing?
Yeah, the amount of pestering I got today was quite interesting, but I'll take it. Hey, Owen warned me, so I'll take it.
There you go.
Can I just make one more comment here to
Yeah.
Michael van der Plas is just commenting in there. No, he's not coming back.
He's coming back.
It's not
He's gonna
solo.
be here.
That's the one thing I can confirm
Tune in.
to you. It's not solo.
Tune in Thursday. We'll see. We'll see who's
You'll
here.
see who it is on.
Announcement tomorrow on Twitter. All right, y'all. Thank you so much from all the PHNX Rising crew, podcast crew. It's been great. We'll see you next time. Take care.